Okay, so this video is just going to very quickly show you how to do a binomial expansion. So the yellow box here is your binomial theorem, and that is given in the log tables. Now be very careful. Inside those brackets, you'll notice that it's n0. And just be very careful. That is not a fraction. A lot of people mix that up and put a fraction in there. It's n choose 0. So this notation here, so say for example something was written 5 choose 2. It's written like that. There's no fraction line, please be careful. It's spoken or said as 5 choose 2. So what it is it's asking you how many ways out of 5 things you can choose 2 of them. So how many different combinations that you can actually choose out of the 5 things. I will explain to you how to do this in your calculator, but for now this is what this means. You don't have to work it out. We'll look at this more when we do probability, and we'll learn how you actually work it out the longhand way, but there is a button in the calculator that will do it for you, and that's fine for binomial expansions. And as I said, then when we go to do probability, we'll look at it a bit more. So this formula, the reason we use it is if I have a bracket that says 2x plus 3 squared, I could easily do out that bracket. I just write it out twice and multiply by itself. Even if it was 2x plus 3 cubed, I could write it out twice, multiply it out, and then multiply my answer by 3. But really, when we go on to larger powers, it's going to be more difficult to multiply this out. So binomial theorem, or the binomial expansions, just shows us a quick way of multiplying out these brackets. So if we talk through the theorem, and then I'll show using an example, and it'll be much clearer when we use actual terms. So it says if we have a bracket x plus y to the power of n, we start off, and for our first term, it's n choose 0. So it's always whatever the power over here is, choose 0, always. The first term then is our x. And we're going to start with whatever the power of n is. And it's not written in the theorem, but there really is. So x just represents the first term. The second term is in there as well, but the problem is with the second term, we start with 0. And remember, anything to the power of 0 is just 1. So that's why it's not written in this theorem, because it's really just to the power of 0. And what we do then is we keep going and we increase the bottom. So we would do n choose 1 for the next term. But that means that the power of x has to keep going down. So it started at n, so now it's going to go down by 1. But the power of y is going to go up. So it was 0, and we're going to add on 1, so it's going to go up to 1. If it's n choose 2, the x is going to go down by another 1, so it's going to go down by 2, and the y is going to keep going up. So it's going to keep going until we get to n choose n here. And we have n choose n here. The x will get to 0, and the y will get to n. So it's essentially, we start off at n choose 0, and we have to get all the way up to n choose n. N could be anything, it could be 5, could be 6. And what happens is the powers of the first term start off at n and go down all the way to 0. And the powers of the second term start at 0 and go all the way up in each term. And that is how you multiply out your bracket. So that's all this means, is if you keep going, n choose r means that your x starts off with n, take away whatever r was, and your y is r. So we're going to keep, I'm going to do these out in examples, and they will make much more sense whenever I do them out in an example. And a little way to make sure you're going correctly is your power should always add up to n. So if n was 6, they should always add up to 6. So n plus 0 is n. N minus 1 plus 1 is n. N minus 2 plus 2 is n. So they should always add up to whatever your original power was. It will make more sense when I do out the actual examples now in a second. So, question 1. It says expand fully p plus q all to the power of 6. So, in this case, we are going to start off, and our first term, or n, is 6. So it's 6, choose 0. And I'm just going to write it out. Normally it's easier to write the whole thing out first of all without your calculator, and then go back and use your calculator. Our first term, so you can write out your first term is p, and our second term is q. If that was a minus sign in the middle, which you'll see in the next example, then the second term has to have the minus sign. So it's our first term, which is p, to the power of whatever n was, so n was 6. And it's the second term, which is q to the power of 0. And we're going to keep going, we're going to add on, we're going to keep going up, so 6 choose 1. So then our first term, which is p, is going to be to the power of 6 take away 1, so this one take away this one, so that's to 5. So it's going down from 6 to 5, and the second one is going up from 0 to 1. The next term is 6 choose 2, and we start off with p is going down another one, so it's going down to 4, and q is going up to 2. The next one is 6 choose 3, the p is going down to 3, and the q is going up to 3. Plus the next one is 6 choose 4, the p is going up to 4, or sorry, down to 2, and the q is going up to 4. The next one is 6 choose 5, so the p is going down to 1, and the q is going up to 5. And then our last term, because it's 6 choose 6, and that's, remember, that's how you say this notation, the p is going down to 0, and the q is going up to 6. And now we can work it out. So if you are using the Casio calculator, I'm going to explain how to do it on mine, and hopefully it will work for you. If not, if you just Google how to do it on your calculator. So 6 choose 0, I just press 6, and then if I press shift, and on my one it's the divide button, but you'll see on the on top of the divide button it says N C R, so it has a little N, so that just means the number of things we're choosing out of, C means choose, and R is the number of things we're choosing. So 6 choose 0 is just 1. P to the power of 6 is just p to the power of 6, and q to the power of 0 is just gone. On to my next term. 6 choose 1, so on your calculator, 6 choose 1 is just 6. P to the power of 5, and q to the power of 1 is just q. 6 choose 2 is 15. So that basically, that's telling us that 6 choose 2, if you have 6 things and you have to pick 2 of them, there's 15 different ways of doing that. And it's p to the power of 4, q to the power of 2. 6 choose 3 is 20, and that's p to the power of 3, q to the power of 3, plus 6 choose 4 is 15, and then that's p squared, q to the power of 4. 6 choose 5 is 6, and then that's p times q to the power of 5, and 6 choose 6 is 1. And that is p to the power of 0 is just going to disappear, and then that's q to the power of 6. And now we just write it out nice and neat at the end. Drop the 1 because you don't need, so 1 times p to the power of 6, so that's just p to the power of 6 plus 6 p to the power of 5q plus 15 p to the power of 4 q squared plus 20 p to the power of 3 q to the power of 3 plus 15 p squared q to the power of 4 plus 6p q to the power of 5 plus q to the power of 6, and that's you finished.